the AMG A35 Saloon. It is the smallest sedan that you can buy from AMG, and 35 signifies that it's the entry point to the AMG hierarchy. But it's backed up by some pretty decent hardware. For starters, you've got a larger engine that puts out 306 horsepower. There's a four-wheel drive system. The suspension features adaptive dampers. The steering has been specifically tweaked for AMG duty. And even the underbody has some stiffening, all designed to help handling. What does it all come together like? Well, let me begin with the engine. So while the regular A gets a 1.3 turbo petrol, the AMG gets a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder unit with 143 horsepower more and a healthy 400 Newton meters of torque. Put your foot down like this and it will shoot forward. Wow! Now it isn't quite as manic as the CLA 45. But it's still pretty quick. Power comes in quite early, just below 2000 RPM, and at around 3000 RPM is where it all gets really interesting. That's where you really feel the punch. Mercedes claim a 0 to 100 km/h time of 4.8 seconds. We got 5.6 in our testing. Quite a difference, but still very quick. And then there's the sound. Rev it hard and it's got a nice raspy note to it, and the best part is that in Sport Plus mode, there's a little bit of that nice burble from the exhaust overrun. Now while gunning it on an empty stretch will give you a thrill, how practical is it for the city slog? In the city, when you're pottering around, it's all quite civil and docile. Sound levels too are, well, really quiet, and it's a pretty refined drive. Typically what you'd expect from a nice plush Mercedes. So it does really transform quite well. The 7-speed DSG also adapts very well to both regular and spirited driving. Though like many dual clutch units, it can take a while to respond in transient conditions, but you can quickly intervene with the paddles. Now with the adaptive dampers, the ride is actually surprisingly good. Yes, there is an underlying firmness, this is an AMG after all, but it still remains very usable in an everyday scenario. Even in the firmest setting, it isn't bone-jarring, and in comfort, it does round off most of the bumps a lot better. Speed breakers, however, do need to be respected, as it can scrape its low underbody on the larger ones. So the other big difference with the AMG is the drive system. Here on the A35, we have the four-wheel drive 4MATIC system, which is generally front biased, but it can vary the power between the front and the rear axles, though it never goes more than 50% to the rear. Not that I suggest it out on the road, but for enthusiasts who have track days, that means you won't really be getting this tail to kick out that easily. But that's not a bad thing. Out here on the roads, it remains nice and neutral. In fact, the handling is something I really like on this car. Now remember that underbody stiffening I spoke about? Well, what that does is it gives the suspension a really firm anchor point from which to do its work. And boy, it does really work well. Show it a set of corners and boy, it will entertain you. You've got nice, good amount of grip and it's still all neutral. Push it and push it. It will understay at times, but for the most part, it's just wonderfully grippy. So yes, this car is sensible fun, if that is a thing that is, but the thing is, it's not a sedan with sporty pretensions. No, it's a genuine sports saloon. It's fast and it's nimble, but its ride won't break your back, and there's plenty of space inside. So speaking of which, let me pull over and show you around. So inside there are plenty of AMG touches. There is of course the steering wheel, which is a nice flat bottom sporty looking unit. It's got some neat little red stitching here. Both the screens have AMG specific displays with things like a G-force meter, power and torque readouts, and you even have a display that shows you the vertical movement of the suspension. There's of course aluminium sport pedals and these fantastic seats. They look good, but they're also comfortable. The only thing is if you're thinner like me, then they're quite broad and you move around. If you're a little broader and you fill out the seat better, you'll have no problem. Now, space at the rear is quite nice. The car, as you know, is based on the A-Class, and the A-Class has the longest wheelbase in its segment. And you can tell from the legroom here, I'm 5'8". This seat is adjusted to my driving position. And as you can see, there's quite a decent amount of legroom here. Not only that, unlike the CLA, which had a sloping or a swooping coupe-like roofline, as you can see here, the flat roof means I've got quite a lot of headroom as well. So yeah, this can work as a regular everyday sedan too. There's also a few creature comforts like rear AC vents, an armrest with flip-out cup holders and 2 Type-C USB slots. Coming to the exterior, again, there's no mistaking it for a regular A. Of course, the striking yellow shade that we have is helping immensely. But there are some very neat looking details, and what I really like is that Mercedes have managed to give it enough dazzle without going overboard. The twin 5-spoke alloys look neat, the bumper slats give it some nice aggression, the side skirts are just perfect, and the little boot spoiler too is just about right, and the twin exhausts nicely round off the sporty aggressive look. So then the car also has the show to match the go. Yes, on the whole, it isn't as hardcore as the CLA 45 we had earlier, but that's the whole point. With the A35, Mercedes are aiming at an everyday AMG, and the A35 does really well on that front. It definitely delivers enough performance to wear the AMG badge, and being based on the A sedan, it's pretty practical too. Also importantly, being made in India, it's priced at a very decent 56.24 lakh rupees, giving those that aspire for an AMG a great starting point. So as far as we are concerned, the A35 really hits a fantastic sweet spot of performance, practicality and price too.